So I want to talk a little bit this morning about talking to people about Jesus. One of the fears a lot of people have. This is Steve Ridgel, and well, to be honest, I talk to some people, and what they rarely will say it this way, but unspoken is the thing about, well, but if I try to talk to people about Jesus, what if some people don't like me? That's a real fear. And you know what? There are people that are not going to like you if you talk about Jesus. They're just not. Now, so the first thing you got to decide is you want to try to follow God and run the risk of not being popular with people, or do what God wants, and that's the way it is. You just got to decide that. But let me tell you the truth. In our culture, culture is never going to appreciate Jesus. Our world doesn't. We live in a kingdom different than the kingdoms of the world. So when you try to talk about Jesus, there are going to be people that aren't going to like it. There are going to be people they don't want to follow Jesus because, well, if you talk about Jesus, that's going to infringe on how they live their life. There are things Jesus is going to ask of them that they don't want to do. But here's a couple of things you need to remember. When you say to someone, well, I'm afraid it'll cost me a friendship if I try to talk about Jesus. Okay, number one, if they're your friend and they don't know how important Jesus is, you're not going to talk to them anyhow. You don't even have to worry about that. We're kind of talking about a situation that's never going to happen. But if they're really your friend and know how much you like Jesus, they'd be a little surprised if you didn't mention him from time to time and try to talk to them. And I'm going to tell you the truth. You're not going to stay close friends with someone that's not a believer. You're just not, because the most important thing in your life is not the most important thing in theirs. You may be acquaintances, you may be casual friends, you may be good neighbors, you may be teammates, but you won't really be close friends, because the most important thing in your lives are different. The other thing, somebody says, well, I just don't want to be labeled as one of the, every time they see me, they roll their eyes. You know how they do about some insurance salesman, car salesman. Yes, I do. And I know there are people I know roll their eyes when I come. It's going to be, oh gosh, here comes Steve. He's going to try to get me to go to church. You know what? I'm willing to live with that. I am. That's just one of the things I think you have to decide. Okay, I'm willing for people to think, here's the guy that always wants to talk about Jesus, always wants to invite me to church. I would rather them dodge me and run when they see me coming, because it's not really about me. They're dodging Jesus. Well, now somebody says, well, but you come on. Yes. Nobody has to be as over the top as I am about stuff. And I'm probably a little too pushy about it, to be honest. But I'd rather be that way than someone say, wait, that guy was a Christian, or get to the judgment time and Jesus say, why didn't you follow me? Well, nobody ever told me to. Well, I had believers that lived all around you. Well, they never said anything. It's hard, and you run a little risk. And in our culture, boy, you're not going to be popular. But you know what? We're not running for a popularity contest. Churches make a real mistake when they try to cater to the culture. Christians make a real mistake when you're so afraid of not being popular, not being liked, losing a friend that you won't talk to them about Jesus. You need to reevaluate your definition of what it is to be a disciple of Jesus, what a real friend is, and what your real life mission is. So that's a long way of saying, I hope this week, maybe even today, you get a chance to say something to someone about Jesus. This is Steve Ridgel, wanting to talk to his people about Jesus.